Fireside poetry, from the mid-1800s to late 1800s. Fireside poets were a group of 19th century American poets from New England. They were the first group of American poets to rival the British poets. The name Fireside poets is derived from their popularity and because their poetry was a common source of entertainment for families gathered around a fire. As a group, they are notable for their scholarship, political sensibilities, and their particular use of repetitive lines and controversial themes. These poets preferred normal, conventional forms of poetry over experimentation. They used standard forms, regular meters, and rhymed stanzas, which made their poems easily memorized. Fireside poets did not write for the sake of other poets. They wrote for the common person. They meant to have their stories told for families. They are most remembered for their longer, narrative poems that frequently used American legends, mythology, and scenes of American home life as their primary subjects. Three of the five famous fireside poets are William Bryant, John Witter, and Oliver Holmes. They are all famous for their individual works and their collaborated works. They all frequently used cultural and political issues within their poetry. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a commanding figure in the cultural life of 19th century America. Born in Maine in 1807, he became a national literary figure by the 1850s and a world-famous personality by the time of his death in 1882. He was a traveler, a linguist, and a romantic who identified with the great traditions of European literature and thought. At the same time, he was rooted in American life and history, which affected his poems' themes, and it made him ambitious for success. In his popular poems, he creates myths and epics such as the Song of the Hiawatha and Paul Revere's Ride.
Autumn Within by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. It is autumn, not without, but within me is the cold youth and spring are all about. It is I that have grown old. Birds are darting through the air, singing, building without rest. Life is stirring everywhere, save within my lonely breast. There is silence, the dead leaves fall and rustle and are still. Beats no flail upon the sheaves, comes no murmur from the mill.
The speaker, which is also the poet, is speaking in first person, and it is an elderly person reminiscing his youth and comparing his feelings to the season of autumn. What is being discussed is the themes of old age and change. When this poem occurs is in autumn during the day, and it occurs in America. The speaker's motivation for writing is to write about his personal accounts of aging and change. The type of poem this poem is a lyrical poem, due to its emotion and personal feelings involved. The audience is majorly common people in America or in Europe. The title references to the themes and the meanings in this poem. Some themes in this poem are nature, life, and change. For example, he references to birds that sing and build without rest, but then contrasts it to himself saying, "It is I that have grown old." The types of rhymes used in this poem are in rhymes in the pattern of AB, AB. Some language used in this poem are metaphors, imagery, and symbols. One of the biggest literary concepts used in this poem is the use of a metaphor. Where the poem seems to be talking about autumn, it is really talking about the poet. The metaphor is accomplished through imagery and symbols. One example of imagery is in stanza 1, line 3, where the speaker says youth and spring are all about. One of the main symbols in this poem is nature. When the speaker uses words like spring, fall, and autumn, he conveys the theme of how change is inevitable.